Hola, chicas y compañeros, and welcome. Today, I'm Stone Meredith, founder of the Clever Chicas Project, and I'm here with the one, the only, David Moore. He goes by Dave to his Chicas and Compañero friends, so that'd be you guys. He is Vice President and Financial Advisor at Morgan Stanley Wealth Management, and he lives way up north, and today he's way down south in San Key, Florida, sitting together with me in one of our Chica caves. And today we're going to talk about a lot of things that have to do with money and stuff. So we're going to talk about it from a variety of perspectives, but the real point of our conversation is to talk about ways that you look at things that you acquire and how you use those things that you acquire to survive today, to plan ahead, and to give back to your community, which is kind of really what drives the idea of the Clever Chicas project. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, good to hear and to see all of you.
Thank you so much for being here with us. So that you know, Dave has been with this project since the beginning. And so, Dave, tell us a little bit about, that we're talking with younger folks who really have not even gotten to high school yet. And so tell us a little bit about what your day looks like as somebody who is a vice president and an assets really, or a financial manager for people. Tell us what a day looks like for you.
Well, wonderful. Hi. So my day is really about staying in touch with my clients, not just in a technical way, but in a spiritual way. Because the goal for me is to put my clients on a glide path so they have a wonderful, exciting, and fulfilling retirement.
So your goal is to just help people save money?
Well, it's actually what I like to say, it's to help people navigate complex financial situations simply. And that's a little bit different for everybody depending on your age and where you are in your life.
So just out of curiosity, if I were in, say, elementary school or middle school, and I thought, I'd like to help people navigate their financial lives, what does somebody have to do it? Do they major in math, or what do you do to learn how to do that?
Well, I think it's money is an interesting thing because we're born into a family, and some families have money and some families don't. Some people share, some people don't. But I think a great way to think about this would be, if your grandma, your grandpa, your aunt, somebody gives you $10, think about, what would you do with it? Would you go spend it all at once? Would you share some with somebody who needs more than you do? Would you put it away for a future thing like a bicycle or college or a special outfit? So money gives you power to manage your life. So it's almost like taking a deep breath and thinking about what this money can do for you before you do anything, before you even put it in your wallet or put it in your savings account or go to the store and think about spending it.
So it sounds to me like you're saying somebody who would maybe be interested in doing this for their life or interested in doing it for themselves, that as we grow older, we may want to become you, or we may want to work with somebody like you. But it sounds like really the first step to even considering this is to really look at your own financial life.
I really think that's true, because it's almost like anything. It's whether you have a spiritual practice, or whether you read at night, or whether you take care of your pet. It's about thinking about it before you actually do it. Money will give you power, or if you don't think about your money in a healthy way, your money will take the power away from you.
But what if I say, well, it's just $10? I mean, why don't I just go maybe and buy a meal and not worry about it? What's wrong with that?
So here's what I think. I talk to a lot of my young clients, or children of some of my clients, or grandchildren of some of my clients, teenagers, young kids. So say you spent $10 a week on a coffee and a muffin at Starbucks. That's how many thousands of dollars a year? That would be $500 a year.
Wow.
So if you put away, say you only had a coffee every other week, you'd have $250 in your pocket that you didn't have. And you still would have had the enjoyment of the coffee every other week. So money is opportunity, but it's also a lot of trade-offs. So prioritizing what's important for you is really important. So I'll give you an example. saving for college, for instance, or saving for a bicycle. It requires a current sacrifice to forego consuming something so that you have liquidity or financial buying power in the future. So always be thinking about that. So if you get that $10 as a gift, maybe you want to use 50% of it or $5 for your necessities, things you must have. Then you put a little bit away for the future. And then maybe if you have a little bit left over, you give $1 or $2 to somebody who needs it more than you do.
So maybe a sibling, or maybe a charity, or
Exactly. Or, if you like rescuing animals, maybe you give $2 to the Humane Society.
Okay.
So whatever moves you. And you trust me, when you give back, you get so much in return.
So really, you think it's never too young to start. I remember when I was younger thinking, well, gosh, I don't have anything to give. And I was really fortunate that my grandmother, kind of clued me in on everything is appreciated. So let's go back to that idea of $10. It sounds like I'm really hearing you say is important for this first conversation is that maybe not to be so afraid of money, maybe to realize how much power you have. If you have $1, it sounds like you have some power for today and for the future. I like going back to that $10 idea, because $10, I'm not super great at math. I hope our listeners are better than I am, or they're going to have a long time in high school. But let's say that we stay with that $10, because that's a nice number to work with. So like maybe we're going to say half for now, and then maybe the $5 that left we could think about sharing and planning ahead with.
Correct.
So it's like a save, spend, and share?
Share. Well, I think of it as share first.
Okay.
Then save.
Okay.
And then spend whatever's left over.
So that's a really interesting idea, because you kind of flip the idea around that way. I think a lot of us get money and think, oh, I got this money. What do I need? But this is kind of a better long-term perspective. I imagine what you and I could do if we could go back to elementary or middle school and flip that script. And instead of thinking I've got to buy what I need first, if we said, let me share first, and I say, okay, I'm going to share $1 out of the 10, then let me save the 3 or 4, and then you feel like you've really planned ahead, you're feeling really good about yourself, and you feel good spending that $5 because you don't feel like you're going to squander it. Really, you can go blow it at McDonald's or at Bojangles if you want to, because you've already planned ahead for your future. Did I get that right? Can you say it again?
Let's even think about it this way. Imagine if you had 3 mason jars on your bed, on your nightstand, and your grandpa, grandma, somebody you care about gives you $10. The first thing you do is put the $2 in the savings jar, in the sharing jar.
Mm-hmm.
Then you put $3 in the spending jar, and then you put $5 in the future jar.
And so that just becomes how you think.
And so, there's a disciplinary axiom, and it's basically anything you do for 21 days in a row becomes a habit. So every time you get your allowance, every time you get a birthday gift, or
you have change left over from lunch,
you go to those 3 jars, and it'll be. And what's really great about the jar? What's interesting about a glass jar? You can see into it. So you'll start to see. Look at how much power I have in my sharing jar. Look how much future power I have in my savings jar. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's even something left over in my spending jar because I didn't spend all of it, because I'm really thinking about I have power over the money. And I don't need to take my spending allocation, my $5. I don't need to run out and buy something that I really don't need that's going to sit on my chair in a week, then I'll ignore it. So think about what you're going to use your money for. And you don't have to spend it the minute you get it.
I love that idea.
This gives you a framework to think about money in a healthy way.
So let's imagine, because I like this idea of the jars, and I remember being a little kid, and I lived in a rural town, and I mean, there were some stores and everybody knew you in the store, but maybe their stuff came in on Thursday, or maybe you knew the second Friday of every month they got something. And certainly in the last couple of years with COVID, so maybe stores are out and you have to wait a while. And that feeling of that money burning a hole in your pocket, this kind of seems to get around that, right? Because it's really kind of a nice thing that as soon as you get the $5, the $10, or the 50 cents now at this point, right? Because you've got a place to go put it, it's like you have had the joy of spending it because you see it in those jars, and you kind of begin to see that future. So the idea of I'm going to spend $5 on whatever it is, a certain kind of candy or a certain kind of food. I remember getting some money on Monday and wait until Friday night after the football game thinking I was going to get to go to the drive-up and get a milkshake. And so I looked at that money all week thinking I couldn't wait to go. So really, it's like a lot to look forward to because you have the way you're going to spend the money currently.
Right.
Then you have the way that you're going to save the money for your future. And then you also have where you're going to put in your contribution to something you really believe in, whether it's helping animals, whether it's helping a sibling, whether it's helping a grandparent or a friend. I really love that idea, and it kind of puts in perspective how much power I think we all have to be chicas and compañeros in our own culture. If we could, I'd like to talk a little bit about giving back. Because once you're in that mindset and that plan ahead mindset, I mean, have you had any experiences with clients where maybe they give a little bit to an organization and then become a part of it? Like, is it just enough to give money? Or let's say that you are getting a couple of dollars a month and you're saving 30 cents at a time, which we would really encourage. But what else do we do? Like, one thing I really like about what you're talking about is that as a very young person, you're in charge and you're getting to pick. So I like animals. Let's say we pick an organization that's helping animals, and over time we're going to save money, and maybe by Christmas we say we want to be able to give them something. It kind of opens the door for us to get on the phone and give them a call and see if they need anything else, doesn't it?
Yes, and I think being financially generous has two components. One is it's not just the money that you're giving. It is the joy you feel when you help out an organization or a person that you really believe in. Right?
Yes.
It's that good feeling. And then it builds a bridge because that organization, that person, that church, whatever, is going to extend their hand back to you in gratitude. Mm-hmm. So it creates this wonderful feedback loop of sharing, gratitude, commonality, giving. I think it's also interesting. A lot of people give to their church every Sunday.
That's another great choice.
And that's a wonderful choice. But what about other organizations? Pets, the elderly, the Cancer Society, whatnot. What is there something that you have that's really personal to you? Maybe you had a relative who needed social services or was in a shelter. Maybe you had a relative who was adopted and came out of the foster system. So whatever you feel strongly about, you can get involved in a financial way, and then you'll be on the radar screen of that organization. You become a partner in their success, and they're a partner in your feel good about sharing.
And maybe also in your future, right? You live in a community, you say, you work to save up to donate the money when you have an amount you feel good. You reach out to the organization, but it's a great way to meet people who kind of value the same things you do,
Correct.
right?
And you can build community and become part of a community of like-minded people. So I call this being financially inquisitive.
Okay.
Because money is just not about consumption.
And what does inquisitive mean? What does that word mean?
It means about stepping out of your comfort zone.
Okay.
And trying to discover things where you can make a difference. So I like to think of if your life was two circles, there's this big fat circle we live in called our comfort zone.
Okay. Stuff we do every day. The way we usually get $5, spend it, all those kind of things.
The way you talk about money. And then there's this teeny little circle that's like a satellite circling that big circle. That's where the magic happens. So with your money and with your beliefs and with your heart, and with your sweat equity, and if you want to deliver Meals on Wheels or walk pets for the elderly because they can't walk their own pet, whatever it is, all that magic happens in that little small circle. And then all of a sudden, guess what happens? Your big circle gets even bigger.
To meet it.
Because you've been inquisitive. And it's additive. So money can empower you not just in purchasing power and saving for something for the future. It can empower you to be a stakeholder.
Oh, I really like that. So the idea of a stakeholder is somebody that contributes, maybe through helping and volunteering and through donating as well, where they really become a part of where that group or that organization moves forward.
Right.
And I love the idea, this idea that your neighbor needs something. And so you go over and help, and maybe they need some work, and you don't have a lot of money saved up yet, maybe to pay for a new light bulb on their porch,
Right.
but you could certainly help them clean up their yard, and together get to know your neighbor, and together say this might be better for the neighborhood. And what a perfect age, really, elementary school, middle school, to get out and build a community and start to see what that looks like. Well, I think we've gotten some pretty good darn advice in about 15 minutes, Dave. I want to recap a couple of things. We're going to get 3 jars or 3 containers, and we're going to write not spend, save, and share. We're going to do first share, then save, and then spend. So we're going to flip the idea around. We're going to begin with thinking about our future. We're going to make conscious choices. First, we're going to pull up what a percentage, and a good way to think about it is if I get $10, I'm going to share 1 or 2 of those. I'm going to take 2 or 3 out of that and save for the future. And then 5 I've got to spend right now without worrying about it or feeling like I just blew it because I've planned ahead for my future. Did I get that right?
You did. And also remember, you have to start somewhere with one small step. So just thinking about the 3 jars is the great place to begin. And maybe you can only do the save and spend this week and you don't have enough to give. But as you get into the process, you'll find that a nickel here and a dime there, all of a sudden you have a couple of bucks in your share jar, and then you can go out and show your kindness.
I love that idea. Parting question. So if I wanted to grow up, do all these things, and I'm thinking maybe I want to go to high school and I want to take certain courses that might push me to learn more about finance or money, then maybe I want to go on to college and learn things that push me more about finance and handling my own money. Any tips?
A lot of schools have classes where you can take a finance class, and it might be about personal accounting. It might be about joining an investment club, and that's a whole nother thing. That's what you can do with your savings to grow your savings.
Okay.
So I would say anytime your curriculum or there's a hobby or a after school club that you can join that talks about money, sharing, giving, saving, definitely take it. It's worth it.
So business, accounting, finance, future business leaders
Right.
of America, any of those kinds of things. And then maybe also talk to your guidance counselor too.
Right. And then also, we all see people in our communities, whether it's at our church or at the community center or someone that is known to be active in the community. Don't be afraid to ask them how they got started.
I love that idea.
I always say hitch a ride on someone who's taken the ride before you.
I love that. Let's think that again. Hitch a ride on someone who's taken the ride before you. And that really gets back at the idea of the Chicas and Compañeros. There are people out in our communities everywhere waiting to pass on the lessons they've learned on that ride.
Right.
And what better person to give us that advice in parting than our own compañero, the great Dave Moore. Dave, thank you for coming on board. Thank you for being part of this project. And don't forget, once you've listened to this podcast, be sure and take a look at the handouts that Dave and I have helped generate to get everybody going on the save,
Share,
spend,
share, save, spend.
So we're going to say it one more time. It's hard to do it, right? We're flipping the script, you guys. First we share.
Right.
Then we save.
Then we spend.
And then we spend and have a good time. Thanks, everybody, and be well.